Broken heart, my husband finding another woman over me, and I couldn't believe it. I still remember that night clearly. I walked into the bedroom expecting to find him asleep, but instead I found him whispering sweet words into his phone, smiling in a way I had not seen in years. My heart sank when I heard him call another woman my love. My legs trembled and for a moment I thought I was dreaming. But no, it was real. My husband, the man I had built my whole life around, had found another woman over me, and I couldn't believe it. Before I go deeper, let me introduce myself properly. My name is Margaret, I am 63 years old, and I'm speaking to you right here from North Carolina, USA. Please, before I continue, I want you all to like, subscribe, and click the notification button so you don't miss any of my upcoming stories. And please let me know in the comments which part of the country you are watching from. Now let's go back to the beginning of my story, so you understand how I ended up in such a painful situation. I met Thomas, my husband, when I was only 19 years old. He was tall, handsome, and had this way of making everyone around him laugh. I came from a poor background, and he seemed like a dream come true. He worked in construction, strong and hardworking, and I worked in a small diner where we first met. He would come every evening, order coffee he didn't even finish, just so he could see me. Eventually he asked me out, and within a year, we were married. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Money was always tight, but we managed. I worked double shifts sometimes just to help pay the bills, and Thomas did everything he could on his end. At least, that's what I believed then. We laughed a lot, we fought a lot too, but we always found our way back. I thought nothing could break us apart. But slowly things began to change. After the children grew up and left home, I noticed Thomas became distant. He would stay out late, claiming he was working late, or sometimes disappear for hours without telling me where he was going. I tried to ignore it at first. I told myself he was just stressed or maybe tired. But a woman always knows when something isn't right. One night, I confronted him. Thomas, is something wrong? You don't talk to me anymore. He sighed and rubbed his face. Margaret, you worry too much. I'm fine. Just tired. But the way he avoided my eyes made my stomach twist. Still, I convinced myself it was nothing. After all, we had been together for more than 40 years. Surely he wouldn't betray me now. Then came the whispers. People in town began to talk. A friend of mine, Linda, pulled me aside one afternoon. Margaret, I don't want to hurt you, but I think you should know. I've seen Thomas with a woman, not once, but many times. I laughed nervously. No, Linda, you must be mistaken. Thomas? He wouldn't do that to me. But inside, doubt started eating me alive. Every late night, every excuse, every cold stare. It all made sense now. Still, I chose to believe my husband. Until that night. The night I caught him talking sweetly to her on the phone. My hands shook as I held the doorknob. I wanted to scream, I wanted to demand answers, but I froze. The words, "I love you, baby," came out of his mouth, and I felt like someone had stabbed me straight through my chest. I wanted to run, but my legs were weak. Tears filled my eyes and my heart broke into pieces. The man I thought I knew better than anyone else was a stranger to me now. And in that moment, my whole world turned upside down. I didn't know what to do next. Should I confront him right then and there? Should I walk away? Should I fight for the marriage I had given my whole life to? As I stood there, paralyzed, Thomas suddenly turned and saw me standing in the doorway. His face went pale, his phone slipped from his hand, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. And that, my dear viewers, was the moment my life changed forever. The look on Thomas's face when he saw me standing there will never leave my memory. His eyes widened like a child caught stealing cookies. His mouth opened but no words came out. And his whole body stiffened as if his shame was too heavy to carry. The silence between us was louder than any scream. Margaret, he whispered, his voice trembling. I could barely breathe. My chest felt tight, my throat dry. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. Who were you talking to? I finally asked, though deep down I already knew the answer. He stuttered, fumbling for words. It's nothing. Just a friend. A friend? My voice cracked. Do you tell your friends you love them? Do you call them baby? The color drained from his face. He stepped toward me, reaching out his hand. Please, Margaret, let me explain. I backed away, tears streaming down my cheeks. Explain? After 40 years of marriage, after raising children together, after sacrificing everything for you. You want to explain this? I had never felt so betrayed in my life. My hands were shaking uncontrollably, but I didn't want to let him see how broken I felt inside. I wanted to be strong, but my soul was collapsing. He dropped his head, unable to look at me. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was lonely. You've been so busy with church and with the grandkids. Don't you dare blame me. I screamed, my voice echoing through the house. Don't you dare put this on me. The neighbors probably heard me, but I didn't care. 40 years of love, trust, and pain were crashing down on me in one single moment. I ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and collapsed to the floor. I cried until my eyes burned and my body was too weak to move. The images of him with another woman haunted my mind. Was she younger? Prettier? Did she laugh at his jokes the way I used to? The thought made me sick. For days I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house like a ghost, avoiding his eyes, avoiding his touch. The bed felt colder than ever. Thomas tried to apologize. He brought me flowers, cooked dinner, even washed the dishes, things he hadn't done in years. But his efforts felt empty. Every time I looked at him, I remembered the phone call, the lies, the betrayal. Margaret, please, he begged one evening, kneeling in front of me. I made a mistake. Don't throw everything away because of one mistake. One mistake. I said, my voice shaking. Thomas, you didn't trip and fall into love with another woman. You chose this. Every text, every call, every lie. You chose her over me. His silence confirmed what I already knew. He loved her. And yet, a part of me still loved him. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. You can hate someone for breaking your heart, but love doesn't just vanish overnight. I was trapped between anger and heartbreak, love and hate. The children began to notice something was wrong. My daughter, Emily, came to visit one Sunday after church. She looked at me closely and asked, Mom, are you okay? You look tired. I forced a smile. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just not sleeping well. But she wasn't convinced. Is it Dad? Did he do something? I froze. My lips wanted to spill everything, but my heart wasn't ready. How could I tell my children that their father, the man they looked up to, had betrayed me? So I stayed silent. For now. Weeks passed, and the distance between Thomas and me grew wider. He still sneaked away at odd hours, still whispered on the phone when he thought I was asleep. My suspicion turned into certainty. He wasn't letting her go. One night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. My hand shook as I picked it up. A message lit up the screen. I miss you, darling. When can I see you again? My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the words, my vision blurry from tears. The truth was right there in front of me. He hadn't just found another woman, he was in love with her. I dropped the phone just as he walked back into the room with a towel around his waist. His eyes darted to the phone on the floor, then back at me. His face turned pale. You went through my phone? He asked, his voice sharp. I stood, my whole body trembling. I didn't have to. She came to me herself, Thomas. She's right here in your phone telling me you love her. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched. Margaret, don't make this worse. Worse? I shouted. How much worse can it get? You've destroyed me. The room spun. I felt faint, my knees weak. I gripped the edge of the dresser to stop myself from collapsing. And that's when something happened that I never, ever expected from the man I thought I knew better than anyone. He raised his hand. The moment Thomas raised his hand, time seemed to freeze. I stared at him in shock, unable to believe what I was seeing. This was the man I had loved for over 4 decades. The man who had held my hand when our children were born. The man who promised to protect me for life. Now, that same hand I once trusted was hanging above me like a threat. For a split second, his eyes burned with anger, and I thought he would strike me. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. My legs trembled, and my body instinctively shrank back in fear. But then, just as suddenly, he dropped his hand and turned away. He slammed his fist against the dresser instead. the sound so loud that it made me jump. The mirror rattled, and for a moment, I thought it would shatter. "Damn it, Margaret," he shouted, his voice full of rage. "You just don't understand." Tears streamed down my face. "Understand what, Thomas? That you betrayed me? That you replaced me with someone else?" He wouldn't look at me. His chest rose and fell heavily as though the weight of the truth was crushing him. "She makes me feel alive again," he muttered under his breath. His words cut deeper than any slap ever could. Alive again? So what was I all these years? Just dead weight? My heart felt like it had been ripped apart, stomped on, and left to bleed. I grabbed my coat and stormed out of the house. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to get away from him, from that house full of lies. The cool night air hit my face as I walked down the street, tears blinding my eyes. I ended up at Emily's house. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, broken and crying, she pulled me inside without a word. "Mom, what happened?" I collapsed into her arms, sobbing uncontrollably. For the first time I told her everything. About the phone call, the messages, the raised hand, the betrayal that had shattered my soul. Emily's face hardened with anger. I knew something was wrong. "Mom, you can't stay with him. He doesn't deserve you." But the thought of leaving Thomas scared me. I had been with him since I was 19. I didn't know life without him. How could I start over at 63? That night, I lay awake in Emily's guest room, staring at the ceiling. Memories of my life with Thomas flooded my mind. The good, the bad, the laughter, the tears. I couldn't stop asking myself, where did it all go wrong? Was I not enough for him anymore? The next morning, I returned home. Part of me hoped Thomas would be sorry, that he would beg for forgiveness. But when I walked in, I found him sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee as if nothing had happened. "You're back," he said flatly. "Yes, I'm back," I replied, my voice trembling. Silence filled the room. Then I asked the question that had been burning inside me. "Do you love her?" He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw no hesitation in his eyes. "Yes." That one word shattered whatever was left of my heart. I felt my knees weaken, but I forced myself to stay standing. Then what am I still doing here? He didn't answer. He just stared into his coffee as though the answer was too heavy to say out loud. That night, I packed my suitcase. My hands shook as I folded clothes into the bag, tears falling onto the fabric. Every shirt, every dress carried memories of a life I was about to leave behind. But just as I zipped up the suitcase, something happened that stopped me in my tracks. The phone rang. I glanced at it, and when I saw the caller ID, my blood ran cold. It wasn't just her. The other woman, it was her name. And the name on that phone screen was someone I knew. Someone far closer than I ever imagined. When I saw that name flashing on Thomas's phone, my hands went numb. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt the room spinning. I blinked, thinking maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. But no, it was there, clear as day. The other woman was Linda. Yes, my own friend Linda. The same woman who had once warned me about Thomas, pretending to be concerned, pretending to protect me. She had sat in my kitchen, sipped tea with me, laughed with me, shared stories of her childhood, and all along she was the one stealing my husband behind my back. I froze. My whole body trembled with anger, betrayal, and confusion. How could she? How could they? The phone stopped ringing, but then a message appeared. "I can't stop thinking about last night. I love you, Thomas." My knees buckled. I almost collapsed to the floor, clutching the suitcase for balance. My vision blurred with tears, but I refused to look away from the screen. The truth was staring me in the face, and it was more disgusting than I could ever have imagined. I stormed into the kitchen, where Thomas was sitting at the table. I slammed the phone in front of him so hard the coffee mug rattled. "Explain this," I screamed, my voice cracking. He glanced at the screen, then at me. His eyes widened, but instead of guilt, there was annoyance, as if I had interrupted him. "Margaret, calm down," he said, his voice low. "Calm down," I shouted, my chest heaving. "It's Linda. My friend. The woman who sits in this house and eats my food. You've been lying to me for months, no, for years, and with her of all people." He stood up, towering over me, his face twisted with frustration. "I didn't want you to find out like this. That sentence made my blood boil. You didn't want me to find out? Thomas, I trusted you. I trusted her. And the two of you were stabbing me in the back while smiling in my face. For the first time, I saw no regret in his eyes. Instead, there was a coldness that terrified me. I love her, Margaret. I can't change that. I staggered back as if those words had physically struck me. My chest hurt so badly I thought I might collapse right there. After everything we've built? After the children we raised? After 40 years? You throw it all away for her? His silence was the answer I feared most. Rage consumed me. I picked up the coffee mug from the table and threw it against the wall. It shattered into pieces, just like my heart. My hands shook uncontrollably. I could feel myself breaking apart, piece by piece, in front of him. You will regret this, Thomas, I whispered through gritted teeth, my voice low but heavy with pain. One day, you will regret choosing her over me. I grabbed my suitcase and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind me. My body shook with sobs as I walked down the street, each step heavier than the last. I didn't know where to go, but my feet carried me back to Emily's. When she opened the door and saw me crying again, she pulled me inside and held me like a child. Mom, what happened? She asked, worried. Through choked sobs, I told her everything. About Linda. About Thomas admitting he loved her. About the years of lies. Emily's face turned red with anger. That witch. I can't believe she would do this to you. And Dad, I'll never forgive him. I buried my face in her shoulder and wept. I don't know what to do, Emily. I don't know how to live without him. But I can't stay with him either. She held my hand firmly. Mom, you're stronger than you think. You don't need Dad. You don't need her. You have me and you have your grandkids. We'll get through this together. Her words soothed me, but deep inside I felt something darker. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. Linda had played me for a fool, smiling in my face while stealing my husband. And Thomas, he had spit on 40 years of love. I didn't know how yet, but I swore to myself that neither of them would get away with this. And then, as if fate wanted to pour more salt into my wound, something shocking happened the very next day. I opened the newspaper and saw a photograph that nearly made me drop my coffee cup. It was a picture of Linda and Thomas together, smiling at a public event. They weren't even hiding anymore. I stared at the newspaper, my hands trembling so badly the paper almost slipped from my fingers. There they were, Thomas and Linda, standing side by side at some community fundraiser, smiling like a happy couple. His arm was around her waist. Her hand rested on his chest. And the caption beneath the picture read, "Local businessman Thomas Williams attends charity event with close companion, Linda Harris." Close companion? My blood boiled. She wasn't just a companion. She was my betrayer, my so-called friend, parading herself in public with the man I had spent my life with. I couldn't breathe. I slammed the paper down on Emily's kitchen counter and shouted, "They're not even ashamed. They're showing themselves in public like I'm already dead." Emily rushed over, snatching up the paper. Her face turned red as she read, "This is disgusting. Mom, he's humiliating you. Both of them are. And we won't stay quiet about it." But what could I do? Part of me wanted to scream at the world, to tell everyone what snakes they were. But another part of me just felt broken. Humiliated. I didn't want people's pity. Later that day, I sat alone on the porch, staring into the distance, my mind racing. I thought of the years I had spent standing beside Thomas, through sickness, through poverty, through hardship. I remembered working double shifts to help him pay the mortgage. I remembered staying up all night to nurse him when he was sick. And now, here he was standing proudly in public with another woman, as if I never existed. The anger inside me burned hotter than ever. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello." A woman's voice replied, one that made my stomach twist instantly. "Margaret, it's Linda." I nearly dropped the phone. My hands tightened around it until my knuckles went white. "What do you want?" I spat, my voice trembling with rage. She sighed softly, almost mockingly. "I thought you should hear it from me. Thomas and I, we love each other. He's not happy with you anymore. He hasn't been for years." My blood ran cold. My chest heaved as I tried to contain my fury. Linda, you sat in my house, ate my food, called yourself my friend, and all along you were stabbing me in the back? Her tone was calm, almost smug. You've had him for 40 years, Margaret. It's my turn now. He deserves to be happy. I was shaking so badly I thought I might faint. You'll regret this, Linda. I swear you will. And I slammed the phone down so hard it nearly cracked. Emily, who had overheard part of the conversation, ran in from the other room. Mom, was that her? What did she say? I wiped my tears with trembling hands. She said it's her turn now. Her turn. Emily's eyes widened with fury. That witch. She thinks she can just replace you like an old pair of shoes? No. We won't let her. The fury in my daughter's eyes gave me strength. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a spark inside me, small but growing. Maybe I had been weak, crying, begging, hoping Thomas would come back. But now? Now I knew the truth. They were flaunting their betrayal, shoving it in my face, laughing at my pain. I wouldn't sit quietly anymore. That night, I sat by the window, staring into the darkness, thinking of what to do next. I could go public. I could tell the church, the neighbors, the whole town. Let everyone see them for who they truly were. But another thought crept into my mind, one that made my chest tighten with both fear and determination. What if I didn't just expose them? What if I ruined them? Just as that thought settled in, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Linda. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Margaret? A deep male voice said. Yes. Who is this? I asked cautiously. The man hesitated, then spoke. I think you need to know the truth about your husband and Linda. Meet me tomorrow evening. Alone. My heart skipped a beat. Who was this man? How did he know about them? And what truth was he talking about? Before I could ask questions, the line went dead. I barely slept that night. My mind kept replaying the phone call over and over again. Who was that man? How did he know about Thomas and Linda? And what truth was he talking about? By morning, my nerves were so frayed that even the sound of the kettle boiling made me jump. Emily noticed the dark circles under my eyes as she poured herself a cup of coffee. Mom, you didn't sleep, did you? I shook my head. Someone called me last night. A man. He said he knew the truth about your father and Linda. And he wants to meet me. Emily slammed her mug down so hard some of the coffee spilled. What? Mom, you can't just meet a stranger like that. It could be a trap. I know, I said, my voice shaking. But something tells me I need to hear what he has to say. All day my stomach twisted in knots. The hours dragged on painfully slow until evening finally came. I left Emily's house just as the sun was setting, the sky painted in shades of red and gold, almost like it was warning me of what was to come. The man had told me to meet him at the old park on Maple Street. My heart pounded as I walked past the rusted swings and broken benches, the shadows stretching longer with each step. And then I saw him. A tall man in his 50s, wearing a worn-out leather jacket. His face was partly hidden under a cap, but when he spoke, his voice was the same one I'd heard on the phone. Margaret? He asked, looking around nervously. Yes. Who are you? I demanded, crossing my arms to hide how much I was shaking. He hesitated, then took a deep breath. My name's Robert. And I used to be with Linda. My eyes widened. With Linda? You mean? Yes, he said firmly. She was mine. For years. Until Thomas. The world tilted for a moment. My stomach turned. You mean to tell me? She's been doing this before? She was with you while sneaking around with my husband. Robert's jaw tightened. She's been playing this game for a long time, Margaret. She lures men in, uses them, then moves on to the next one. But your husband, he wasn't just another man to her. She's planning something bigger with him. I frowned. Bigger? What are you talking about? He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Money. Thomas's retirement savings, your house, everything you've worked for. She's not just after love. She's after your life. She told me once that her dream was to have a man who would hand her everything on a silver platter. And Thomas is blind enough to give it all to her. My blood ran cold. Could this really be true? Could Linda be planning to take not only my husband, but also everything I had built with him? Robert continued, his face grim. I know her, Margaret. She'll make him put everything in her name. And when she's done with him, she'll leave. Just like she left me. I staggered back, my chest tightening. Betrayal upon betrayal. Not only had Thomas chosen her over me, but he was handing her our entire life's work. Tears filled my eyes. Why are you telling me this? Robert sighed. Because I lost everything to her. My munie, my dignity, my trist. I don't want to see another person destroyed by her lies. Especially not someone who's already hurting. I covered my face with my hands, sobbing quietly. The thought of losing Thomas was painful enough, but losing my home, my savings, my security? That was unbearable. Robert placed a hand on my shoulder. You need to protect yourself. Check the bank accounts. Check the house papers. Don't let her win. His words burned into my heart like fire. I nodded slowly, wiping my tears. Thank you. I needed to hear this. As I walked away from the park, my mind was spinning with fear and determination. I knew what I had to do. I needed to uncover the truth about Thomas's finances, about Linda's plan. I couldn't let her destroy me completely. When I got back to Emily's, she rushed to the door. Mom, what happened? What did he say? I took a deep breath. He said Linda is after more than your father's love. She wants everything. The money. The house. All of it. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh my God. Mom, we have to stop them. I nodded, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. Yes, we do. And I'm going to start tonight. I waited until it was late, until I knew Thomas would be asleep. Then I went back to the house quietly, like a thief in my own home. My hands shook as I opened the desk drawer where Thomas kept important papers. And there it was, documents spread out across the desk. Deeds. Bank forms. Papers that had Linda Harris's name written on them. He was already transferring everything to her. My knees went weak. My head spun. And just as I picked up the papers with trembling hands, I heard a creak behind me. I turned around. And there stood Thomas, in the doorway, his eyes blazing with fury. I froze, the papers clutched in my trembling hands. Thomas stood there in the doorway, his chest rising and falling like a bull ready to charge. His eyes burned with a kind of anger I had never seen in him before. What do you think you're doing, Margaret? He growled, his voice low and dangerous. My throat went dry. I wanted to speak, but the words stuck. Finally, I forced them out, though my voice cracked. I wanted to see for myself. To see how much of our life you've already handed over to her. His jaw tightened and he stepped closer. Those papers are none of your business. I laughed bitterly, though tears streamed down my face. None of my business? Thomas, I gave you my youth. My strength. My everything. I worked beside you, carried your children, built this home with you. And now you stand there and tell me it's none of my business that you're signing it all away to her. He snatched the papers from my hand so roughly the edges cut my skin. I gasped, staring at the small line of blood on my palm. You shouldn't have seen these, he muttered, turning his face away as if he was ashamed. But there was no shame in his tone, only irritation that I had discovered his secret. My voice trembled, but I stood tall. She doesn't love you, Thomas. She's using you. When she's done bleeding you dry, she'll throw you away just like she's thrown away every man before you. His face reddened. He slammed the papers back on the desk and pointed a finger at me. Don't you dare talk about her like that. You don't know her the way I do. She makes me feel alive again, Margaret. You're just bitter because I don't want you anymore. The words stabbed deeper than knives. I staggered back, my body shaking. After 40 years, that's all I am to you? Just someone you don't want anymore. For a moment, silence filled the room. My tears blurred my vision, but I could still see the stranger in front of me. The man I once loved, now unrecognizable. Then his voice turned cold. If you don't like it, Margaret, maybe you should leave. This house isn't yours anymore. It's going to be ours, mine and Linda's. I gasped so sharply it hurt my chest. My knees nearly buckled beneath me. This is my home. The only home our children have ever known. He didn't flinch. Not anymore. I stumbled back toward the door, my whole body trembling with rage and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to break something, to claw the smug smile off Linda's face in my mind. But instead I whispered, "You'll regret this, Thomas. Both of you will." And then I left the house, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. When I got back to Emily's, she found me sobbing on the porch, my hand still bleeding from the paper cut. She rushed to my side, holding me as I cried into her shoulder. "Mom, what happened?" I could barely get the words out. He said the house isn't mine anymore. That it's going to be theirs. Emily's eyes blazed with fury. "Over my dead body? Mom, you are not going to let them take everything from you. We'll fight this. Legally. Publicly. Any way we can." Her determination gave me strength. For the first time I realized I wasn't completely alone. I had my daughter. I had my grandchildren. I had a reason to keep fighting. But just as I began to feel a spark of hope, life delivered another cruel blow. 2 days later, I went into town for groceries. As I walked past the cafe, people began whispering and staring. I frowned, wondering what they were looking at, until I turned toward the notice board outside the cafe. There, taped up for everyone to see, was a large photograph of Thomas and Linda. They weren't just smiling this time. They were kissing. And beneath the picture was a handwritten note. "True love cannot be hidden. Thomas and Linda forever." My grocery bag slipped from my hands, apples rolling across the sidewalk. My legs turned to jelly, and my vision blurred with tears. The whispers around me grew louder, sharper, cutting into my soul like knives. They weren't just betraying me anymore. They were humiliating me, publicly, shamelessly, and without mercy. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at that photograph. The world around me blurred, the chatter of people, the honking of cars, even the gentle breeze. All of it drowned out by the roaring in my ears. My husband and my so-called friend, locked in a shameless kiss, plastered for the whole town to see. I wanted to rip it down, tear it to pieces, burn it until not a shred remained. But my hands were shaking too badly. Instead, I backed away slowly, my face hot with humiliation as whispers followed me. "That's Margaret, poor thing. She gave him 40 years and he does this. Linda? Of all people." Their pity stung worse than their gossip. I wanted to scream at them, to tell them to stop staring, but the truth was, I was pitiful. I was the fool who trusted too deeply, loved too long, and lost everything. I ran home to Emily's, my tears blinding me. She opened the door and gasped when she saw my face. "Mom, what happened?" Wordlessly, I pulled the photograph from my bag. I had forced myself to rip it from the board before leaving town, anger giving me strength at the last second. Emily's jaw dropped. "That witch," she spat, crumpling the picture in her hands. "She's not just stealing Dad. She's humiliating you, Mom. And he's letting her. No, he's helping her." I buried my face in my hands, sobbing. "I can't take this anymore, Emily. It's one thing to betray me in private, but to parade it around for everyone to see? They want to break me completely." Emily knelt in front of me, her eyes blazing with fire. "Then let's fight back." Her words startled me. I looked at her through tear-stained eyes. "Fight back? How?" She grabbed my hands, squeezing them tight. "Mom, you've been silent too long. You've let them walk all over you, thinking you just disappear quietly. But you still have a voice. Use it. Tell everyone what they've done. Don't let their lies become the only story people hear." Her determination lit a fire in me I thought had long been extinguished. She was right. For weeks I had curled up in my pain, hiding while they flaunted their betrayal. Enough was enough. The next Sunday I put on my best dress and went to church. My heart pounded as I walked inside, every eye turning toward me. Whispers followed me down the aisle, but I lifted my chin and held my head high. After service, while people gathered outside greeting one another, I saw them, Thomas and Linda, standing side by side, smiling smugly as if daring me to confront them. And for the first time I did. I walked straight up to them, my voice steady though my hands shook. "Thomas, Linda, do you feel proud of yourselves? Destroying a family, humiliating me in public, betraying 40 years of marriage." Gasps rippled through the crowd. People froze, turning their attention to us. Linda smirked, slipping her arm through Thomas's. Margaret, maybe it's time you moved on. We're happy together. You should be happy for us. Happy for them. My blood boiled. You sat at my table, Linda. You called yourself my friend while you were sleeping with my husband. And you. I turned to Thomas, my voice breaking. You swore before God to love me till death. And now you spit on those vows like they meant nothing. The crowd murmured, eyes wide with shock. Some shook their heads in disgust. Others whispered angrily. Thomas's face reddened with embarrassment, but Linda only smiled wider. We don't have to explain ourselves to anyone, she said. I raised my voice, tears streaming down my cheeks. No, you don't. But the truth always comes out. And everyone here deserves to know the kind of people you really are. Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Then slowly, people began to move away from them. Some even came to my side, patting my shoulder, whispering words of comfort. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in Thomas's eyes. And for the first time, Linda's smug smile faltered. That night, I felt stronger. I wasn't healed, not even close, but I had stood up for myself. But just as I began to feel a small victory, another storm rolled in. A letter arrived the next morning. No return address. Just my name written in messy handwriting. I opened it with trembling hands. And what I read inside nearly made my heart stop. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about danger. My hands shook as I unfolded the letter. The paper was rough, the handwriting uneven, as if written in a hurry, or by someone who didn't want to be recognized. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own breath as I began to read. Margaret, you don't know me, but I know Thomas. And I know Linda. This isn't just an affair. It's a plan. They're not only after your house and your money. They're after your life. Be careful. They've talked about getting rid of you so nothing stands in their way. Trust no one. A friend. The letter slipped from my hands. My knees buckled, and I gripped the edge of the table to stop myself from collapsing. My life. They wanted to get rid of me? Emily rushed into the room when she heard me gasp. Mom, what is it? What happened? Wordlessly, I handed her the letter. Her eyes scanned it quickly, and then her face turned pale. Oh my God. Mom, this is serious. This isn't just betrayal anymore. This is dangerous. I could barely speak. My throat felt tight, my chest heavy. Do you think it's true? Could Thomas, after 40 years, could he really? I couldn't even finish the thought. Emily grabbed my shoulders firmly. Mom, listen to me. You can't go back to that house. Not ever again. You stay here with me. Please. For your safety. I nodded weakly, though my mind was spinning. The man I once trusted with my life, the man who swore to protect me, might now be plotting to end me? It sounded insane, but the evidence kept piling up. The documents, the lies, the public humiliation. And now this. That evening, I sat by the window, staring at the setting sun. My mind a storm of fear and confusion. Every sound outside made me jump. Every car that passed by made me wonder if Thomas, or Linda, was coming for me. Emily insisted on calling the police, but when they arrived and I showed them the letter, they sighed. Ma'am, we can't do much with this. No proof of who sent it, no concrete threat. But if you feel unsafe, stay with family. And if anything happens, call us immediately. Their words didn't comfort me. They only reminded me how alone I truly was in this battle. The next day, I tried to go about life as normally as I could. I took my grandchildren to the park, cooked dinner with Emily, tried to smile through the pain. But inside, I was drowning. I couldn't stop glancing over my shoulder, couldn't stop imagining Linda whispering poisonous words into Thomas's ear, convincing him that I was the only obstacle standing in their way. Late that night, as I sat alone in the living room, I heard it, footsteps outside. Slow, heavy. My heart leapt into my throat. I froze, straining my ears. The sound moved closer, then stopped right outside the window. I held my breath, my body trembling. Then, suddenly, top, top, top. Someone rapped on the glass. I gasped, nearly screaming. Slowly, with trembling hands, I pulled back the curtain. And there he was. Thomas. standing in the dark, his face half hidden in the shadows, staring straight at me. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. His expression wasn't the one I remembered from our early years. It wasn't love. It wasn't even guilt. It was cold. And in that moment I realized the letter might not have been a warning. It might have been a prophecy. My breath caught in my throat as Thomas's shadow loomed outside the window. His eyes were fixed on me, unblinking like a predator watching its prey. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped the curtain. For a moment neither of us moved. The night was eerily silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing but the pounding of my own heartbeat. Then he lifted his hand slowly, pressing it flat against the glass. His wedding ring glinted faintly in the moonlight, a cruel reminder of vows he had already shattered. I forced myself to speak, though my voice quivered. "Thomas, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer. He only tilted his head, the corners of his mouth twitching as if he wanted to smile but couldn't. Fear crawled through my veins. I stepped back, clutching the armrest of the chair. "Thomas, you need to leave. You don't belong here anymore." That's when his lips finally moved. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried through the glass. "You should have stayed quiet, Margaret. You've made things harder than they had to be." My knees nearly buckled. His words confirmed every fear that letter had planted in me. Harder than they had to be? Did that mean he really was planning something? I stumbled back, bumping into the table. "Go home, Thomas," I managed to choke out. "You're not welcome here." Before he could respond, Emily's voice cut through the darkness. "Mom, who are you talking to?" She stepped into the room, her phone in hand, and when she saw him through the window, her face twisted with rage. "Dad, what the hell are you doing here?" Thomas's expression flickered, and for the first time, I saw a hint of shame in his eyes. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. Without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Emily rushed to me, wrapping her arms around me as I shook uncontrollably. "Mom, it's okay. He's gone. I'm calling the police right now." I clung to her, my tears soaking her shoulder. He said I should have stayed quiet. "Emily, he means to hurt me. I know it now." She pulled back, her eyes fierce. "Then we'll make sure he never gets the chance. He thinks you're weak, Mom, but he has no idea how strong you are. We're going to fight this. Together." The police came again that night. They searched the yard but found nothing. No footprints, no evidence that Thomas had even been there. It was as if the darkness itself had swallowed him whole. But I knew what I had seen. And I knew what I had heard. For the next few days I barely slept. Every creak of the house, every rustle outside, sent shivers down my spine. I kept the curtains closed, the doors locked, the lights on. Emily stayed close, refusing to let me out of her sight. But the fear was still there, gnawing at me. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. One stormy night, just as the clock struck midnight, the phone rang. The shrill sound cut through the silence, making me jump. I hesitated before answering, my heart racing. "Hello," I whispered. At first, there was only silence. Then slowly, a familiar voice filled my ear. "You can't hide from me forever, Margaret." It was Thomas. And then the line went dead. The sound of his voice on the phone echoed in my head long after the line went dead. I sat frozen in my chair, the receiver still pressed against my ear, my hand trembling so hard I thought I might drop it. "You can't hide from me forever, Margaret." The words were like a curse. A promise. Emily found me a moment later, still clutching the phone. "Mom, what's wrong? Who was it?" I could barely speak. My lips quivered as I forced the words out. "It was him. It was Thomas. He knows where I am. He said I can't hide from him." Her face drained of color, then hardened into anger. "That's it. I'm calling the police again. He's gone too far this time." But deep inside, I already knew the police couldn't save me. They had brushed me off before, calling the letter vague, the sighting at the window unprovable. Now, even with the phone call, I feared they would only shrug again. And I was right. When the officers came the next morning, their words cut like knives. "Mrs. Harris, unless he makes a direct threat or actually does something physical, there isn't much we can do." We suggest you consider a restraining order. A restraining order? Against the man I had once built my whole life with? Against the father of my children? My stomach twisted. I nodded, but inside I was breaking. That night, the storm outside mirrored the storm inside me. Rain lashed the windows, thunder shook the house, and the wind howled like a warning. Emily had taken the kids upstairs, tucking them in early, while I sat alone in the living room, staring at the flames in the fireplace. I thought about my life. About the little girl I once was, full of dreams. About the young woman who fell in love with Thomas, blind to the pain that would come. About the mother who sacrificed everything to raise her children. And now here I was, a grandmother, old and weary, fighting for my very survival against the man who once swore to cherish me. Suddenly a sound shattered my thoughts. Bang! The back door. I froze, my body rigid with terror. Slowly I turned my head toward the hallway. The noise came again, bang bang. As if someone was trying to force their way in. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed the poker from the fireplace, my hands shaking as I tiptoed toward the sound. Emily, I whispered, my voice cracking. Stay upstairs. Another crash shook the door. This time, it didn't just rattle, it splintered. The wood cracked, and a gust of cold wind blew into the house. And then I heard it. His voice. Margaret, open this door, or I'll break it down. I staggered back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The poker slipped from my hands and clattered to the floor. The door groaned under his weight, the hinges straining, the frame cracking. I screamed. Emily, call the police. He's here. Upstairs, I heard her frantic footsteps, her voice shouting into the phone. But all I could see was the door giving way, piece by piece, until I knew, any moment now, he would be inside. And then it happened. The door burst open with a deafening crash, slamming against the wall. Rain and wind poured in, and there he stood, Thomas. The storm roared outside, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside me. Thomas stood in the doorway, water dripping from his hair and jacket, his chest rising and falling like a man possessed. The man I had once loved, the man who had once whispered promises under the stars, was now a stranger, a threat, an enemy. My knees shook, but I forced myself to stand tall. My voice cracked as I shouted, Get out of this house, Thomas. You have no right to be here. He smirked, stepping forward, mud from his boots smearing across Emily's clean floor. No right? This is my house too, Margaret. Don't forget that. I stumbled backward until my back hit the wall. My hands groped for anything I could use to defend myself, but the poker was still lying by the fireplace, too far to reach. His eyes flicked toward the staircase. Emily, I know you're here. Don't you dare call the cops again. This is family business. His voice thundered through the house, and I heard Emily shout from upstairs. The police are already on their way. Thomas's face darkened, and he turned back to me, fury blazing in his eyes. Why couldn't you just stay quiet, Margaret? Why did you have to drag everyone into this? You could have walked away with your dignity. But no, you wanted to make a scene. You wanted to humiliate me. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face.
No, Thomas.
You did that all by yourself. I gave you my life and you threw it away for her. And now you come here, breaking into your own daughter's home, threatening me? You're not the man I married. You're not even a man anymore. For a split second I saw something flicker in his eyes, shame, maybe even regret. But it was swallowed by rage. He lunged forward, grabbing my wrist so hard I cried out in pain. You don't get to talk to me like that, he hissed. His grip tightened and I thought my bones might snap. You don't get to stand in my way. I struggled, kicking and pulling, but he was too strong. Thomas, please. Let me go. Just then, footsteps thundered down the stairs. Emily appeared, clutching a heavy lamp in her hands. Her face was pale but determined. Let her go, she screamed, raising the lamp high. For a moment, Thomas froze. His eyes darted between me and Emily, and in that moment of hesitation, I wrenched my hand free and stumbled backward. Emily swung the lamp with all her strength. It crashed against his shoulder, sending him staggering to the side with a roar of pain. Run, Mom, she shouted. But I couldn't. My legs wouldn't move. I couldn't leave my daughter to face him alone. Thomas straightened, his eyes blazing, his chest heaving. The storm outside howled louder, lightning flashing through the broken door, casting his shadow like a monster across the floor. "You'll regret this," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Both of you." And then sirens. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the rain as two police cars screeched to a stop outside. Officers rushed in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. "Sir, step away from them." Thomas raised his hands slowly, his chest rising and falling like he was weighing his options. For a terrifying second, I thought he might charge at them, or worse. But finally he let out a bitter laugh and stepped back. "This isn't over, Margaret," he sneered, his eyes locking on me one last time. "Not by a long shot." The officers grabbed him, pinning his arms behind his back as they dragged him out into the storm. His voice echoed through the night, still screaming my name as the rain swallowed him. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing, Emily wrapping her arms around me. My body shook uncontrollably, my heart racing. It was over. At least for now. But as the storm raged outside, I knew one thing for certain. Thomas wasn't done with me. Not yet. The next morning, the storm had passed, but inside me, the thunder still rumbled. I sat at Emily's kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. My body ached, my wrists still sore from Thomas's grip, but worse than the pain was the emptiness. 40 years of marriage, and this was where it had led me. Sitting in my daughter's home, watching police reports pile up, while the man I once trusted more than anyone sat in a cell. Emily sat across from me, her hand covering mine. "He can't hurt you now, Mom. They arrested him for breaking and entering for assault. He's finally going to face the consequences." I nodded, but my heart wasn't convinced. Thomas had always found a way to twist things, to charm people, to make himself look like the victim. I had seen it happen too many times before. Sure enough, later that afternoon, a knock came at the door. Emily opened it, and there stood a deputy holding a stack of papers. "Ma'am," he said politely, "I'm here to inform you that Mr. Harris has been released on bail. Court date is set for 3 weeks from now." My heart dropped. Released? Already? I clutched my chest, struggling to breathe. Released? After what he did? After breaking into this house and threatening me? The deputy sighed. "Ma'am, we had to let him out on bail. He posted the money. But don't worry, he's under a restraining order now. He can't come near you." A restraining order? Just words on paper. Could paper stop a man driven by rage? Could it keep me safe at night when I knew he was out there, thinking, plotting, waiting? As if to prove my fears right, that evening the phone rang again. Emily answered, but after a few seconds, she pressed the receiver to her chest, her face pale. "It's Linda." My stomach turned. "Put it on speaker." Emily did, and Linda's voice filled the room, smooth, mocking, dripping with venom. Well, Margaret. You've really done it now, haven't you? Gotten poor Thomas thrown in jail. Humiliated him in front of the whole town. Do you feel proud of yourself? Do you feel strong?" I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay calm. "I only told the truth, Linda. Something you wouldn't know about if it slapped you in the face." She laughed coldly. "Truth? You mean your twisted version of it? Thomas doesn't deserve this. You pushed him, Margaret. You provoked him. And now, thanks to you, the whole town is laughing at him." I gripped the table so hard my knuckles turned white. "He did this to himself, Linda. And you encouraged it. You poisoned him against me, against his own family. You're not a victim, Linda. You're a snake." Her voice sharpened. "Careful, Margaret. You think a piece of paper is going to keep you safe? Thomas still loves me. He still listens to me. And together, we're going to take back everything you stole from us." Emily shouted. "You're insane. My mom doesn't owe you anything." But Linda ignored her, her tone turning icy. "Enjoy your little victory, Margaret. Because it won't last. When the court date comes, everyone will see the truth. And when they do, you'll be the one left with nothing. Not even your dignity." The line went dead. Emily slammed the phone down, her face red with fury. "That witch. She's not going to stop until she destroys you." I stared at the phone, my chest heavy. Linda's words weren't just taunts. They were promises. promises of a war that had only just begun. And deep down I knew she was right about one thing. The court date was coming. And it wasn't just about property or papers anymore. It was about survival. The day of the court hearing came faster than I expected. For weeks, I lived in a fog of fear and sleepless nights, jumping at every sound, watching the shadows for signs of Thomas. And Linda. Oh, Linda. She never missed a chance to pour salt into my wounds. Anonymous phone calls. Strange letters left on Emily's porch. Whispers in town that could only have come from her lips. But finally, the morning arrived. Emily drove me to the courthouse, her jaw clenched tight, her hand gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. I sat beside her in silence, my heart pounding, my stomach churning. When we entered the courtroom, whispers filled the air. People from town had come. Neighbors, old church friends, even strangers who had heard about the scandal. I kept my head low, but I could feel their eyes on me. Then I saw him. Thomas, sitting at the defendant's table. Clean-shaven, dressed in his best suit, his hair combed neatly. He looked like the respectable husband I had once known. But his eyes gave him away. Cold. Empty. And beside him sat Linda, dressed in a sharp red dress, her lips curled into a smug smile. She leaned close to him, whispering something in his ear that made his mouth twitch upward. They looked like a united front, strong, confident, untouchable. My hand shook as I took my seat, Emily sitting protectively beside me. The judge entered and the hearing began. Papers shuffled, lawyers spoke, words flew back and forth like arrows. Thomas's lawyer painted him as the victim. A man driven to desperation by a bitter wife who fabricated stories out of jealousy. When it was my turn to speak, I rose to my feet, my knees trembling. My voice cracked at first, but I forced myself to be steady. Your Honor, I gave Thomas 40 years of my life. I supported him, raised his children, stood by him through every trial. And this is how he repaid me. By betraying me with my own friend, by signing away our home, by breaking into my daughter's house in the middle of the night and threatening me. Gasps rippled through the room. I could see heads shaking, lips whispering. For once, the truth wasn't locked inside me. It was out in the open, raw and undeniable. Linda leapt to her feet, her voice sharp as a blade. She's lying. Margaret has always been jealous of me. She can't stand that Thomas finally found happiness outside of her bitterness. She's twisting everything to make herself look like the victim. The judge silenced her with a stern look, but her words still stung. Then came the moment that changed everything. Emily, my sweet, brave daughter, stood and handed the judge a small black device. Your Honor, she said, her voice steady. This is a recording from the night Thomas broke into my home. My heart stopped. Emily had recorded it? I hadn't even known. The judge pressed play, and the courtroom filled with Thomas's voice. Angry, threatening, undeniable. You should have stayed quiet, Margaret. You've made things harder than they had to be. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Gasps rose again, louder this time. Even the judge's eyebrows lifted in surprise. Thomas's face turned red, his jaw tightening. Linda tried to grab his arm, whispering frantically, but the damage was done. Everyone had heard it. Everyone knew. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope flicker in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, the truth was strong enough to save me. But as the judge called for a short recess, Thomas turned in his seat, his eyes locking onto mine. He didn't speak, but his lips moved silently. This isn't over. And in that chilling moment I realized, he was right. The courtroom might expose him, but it wouldn't stop him. Not until he had taken everything. Not until one of us was gone. The recess felt like forever. I sat with Emily in the hallway outside the courtroom, my hands trembling in hers. My heart was racing. My mind a whirlwind of fear and hope colliding. That recording had turned the tide, but Thomas's eyes before we broke. Those eyes promised war. Mom, Emily whispered, her grip tightening on my hand. No matter what happens in there, you're not alone. You've still got me. You've got the kids. He can't take that away. I nodded, but deep down I was terrified. Terrified of what Thomas might do once the judge made his ruling. Terrified of what Linda might whisper into his ear next. When the recess ended, we filed back into the courtroom. The tension was thick, the whispers louder now. Everyone had heard the recording. Everyone knew Thomas wasn't the man he pretended to be. The judge cleared his throat. After reviewing the evidence, including the testimony and the recording provided, this court finds that Mr. Harris did indeed violate the law by unlawfully entering the home of his estranged wife's daughter and making threatening remarks. Effective immediately, Mrs. Harris is granted full ownership of the marital home. Mr. Harris is prohibited from contacting Mrs. Harris directly or indirectly. Any violation will result in immediate imprisonment. Gasps rippled through the room. Emily squeezed my hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. Relief washed over me, though my heart still hammered in fear. But Thomas sat frozen, his face white with rage. Linda leaned close, whispering frantically, but he didn't even blink. His eyes were locked on me, sharp and deadly. As the gavel struck, people began to shuffle out, murmuring about the outcome. I rose slowly, my body heavy, but inside me there was a tiny flame of strength. For once justice had been on my side. But then chaos. Thomas suddenly shot to his feet, his chair clattering to the floor. "You think you've won, Margaret?" he bellowed, his voice shaking the walls. "You think some piece of paper can keep me away? You don't know me anymore." Officers rushed forward, grabbing him by the arms, but he thrashed like a wild animal, his face red, spit flying as he shouted, "This isn't the end. I'll come for you, Margaret. You hear me? I'll come for you." The room erupted. People screaming, the judge slamming his gavel, officers dragging Thomas away as he kicked and cursed. Linda stood frozen for a moment, her face pale, her perfect mask finally cracking. Then she turned and fled, her heels clicking frantically against the marble floor as she disappeared down the hall. I stood there, my body shaking, my heart pounding, but this time I didn't cry. This time I didn't collapse. Because in that moment I realized something. I wasn't the weak, broken woman Thomas wanted me to be. I wasn't the fool Linda thought she could laugh at. I had survived. I had faced betrayal, humiliation, fear, even the threat of death. And I was still standing. As Emily wrapped her arms around me, I whispered the words I hadn't been able to say before. I'm free. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. The scars would never fully heal. But I knew the truth now. Love built on lies always collapses. Trust given to the wrong person always costs too much. And the lesson, the one I prayed everyone listening, watching, reading, or hearing my story would remember, was simple. Never let anyone convince you that you are nothing. Even when the person you love the most betrays you, you are still worthy. You are still strong. And you can still rise. So to everyone hearing my voice right now, thank you for walking this journey with me. My name is Margaret Harris. I'm 68 years old, speaking from Dallas, Texas. If my story touched you, please subscribe, like, and click the notification bell for more upcoming stories. And before I go, tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this story? Because no matter where you are, I want you to know, if you've been broken, you can heal. If you've been betrayed, you can rise. I did. And so can you.